Ah! WTF is eating my orchid. The leaves are starting to look like lace. I've got little black spots all spotted all over it, and it just looks like this poor thing's been eaten to bits. This is Blatilla striata, one of those hardy, tough orchids that really shouldn't be attacked by much, but something's eating this to bits. So I better check what this is so it doesn't eat the rest of my orchids. And I had to bring this inside so that we can get up close and personal and see what is actually happening here. Because this is one of those nasty buggers that you really don't want to have anywhere near your orchids whatsoever. And to start with, mistake number one is there's a weed growing in and around my orchid. This shouldn't be growing here. This is one of the big reasons that you've got to keep your orchid area clean of weeds and other pests, well, other plant pests, because they can help attract certain other of these nunus that we don't want anywhere near our plants. Not only do they attract them, they hide them, and it makes it less easy to spot them. We can land up with a situation like this where our plants are nearly completely decimated and we didn't notice it until it's almost too late. Also, we're starting to get into spring now. The temperatures are just rising and we're starting to get warmer. And this is the time that we need to keep an eye out for this little bugger that's going to be eating our plants. This is Dendrobium beetle. We haven't got to the point where it's beetles yet, so the adult stage hasn't reached us. We've just got those larvae. So the eggs hatched as the weather started to warm up and they started eating our plants. So what do we do now? How do we treat this? How are we going to make sure that we get rid of this now before the adults hatch again out of the pupa and then start laying eggs on the rest of our plants and just fly around the rest of the place spreading Armageddon? We have a 14-day plan that we've got that can get rid of them completely, and it's completely organic. But you can also go the inorganic route with chemicals and nuke them. Let's start off with the organic route and then we'll tell you about the chemicals you can use afterwards. Firstly, what we're going to do is just get a jar of water, preferably a little bit warm, makes it easier, and just discriminately add a lot of dishwashing soap in there. We want a nice soapy water, and what this is to do is so that we can go in manually, either using a spoon or a knife, and find all those little buggers that are creeping in underneath the leaves. And we want to scoop those out and throw that into that soapy water so that they die. Now, it's going to be best to do this manual picking of them in the mornings because that's when they're going to be the most active. As the day starts heating up, often they'll start to move into in between the leaves and they're going to be a little bit more difficult to get to. So the mornings and early evenings is going to be the best time to get out there and try and manually remove as many of them as possible. And then when you're removing them, you'll end up finding these clumps of white. It almost looks like cotton wool, and inside them you'll notice the larvae. At this point, the larvae are starting to pupate, and from those pupa, the adults will hatch. So you've got to go in and remove all of that white fuzzy stuff too. And these guys are really sneaky. They're going to try and hide these nests of theirs all over the show, under the edges of your pot, on the inside, around the sides where you might not think to look. So you're going to have to go through and look underneath every leaf, every little gap and section you can see, and you'll probably find something there. There we go. They even go so far as folding up the leaves at the back of the leaves. Oops. Okay. Let's just cut that leaf off so I can show you nicely. They've folded the leaf up and stuck it together to hide their nest in underneath. So you've got to be very vigilant with this and check everywhere. And these guys are sticky and gooey, and they're not really nice to squish with your fingers. So that's why I use lots of soap here, so that also they'll come off the spoon more easily when I dip them in. And there we can see how many we've got just by doing that. But always remember, you're never going to be able to catch all of them manually. We've got to treat this properly to ensure that we can kill the rest of those that we can't see. So now is the point that you're going to have to get in there and do that weeding that you should have done a long time ago. Pulling out anything that shouldn't be there, and not only is this going to open up your plant so you can see where any others are hiding, it's also going to help when you start treating your plant that you can make sure you get everything treated properly. Also remove any of those old dead leaves that might be hanging around, just so that your treatment can go to where it's needed. Because all of these give places for these insects to hide. There we go, and again here we can see all of them that are hiding here in it around the bottom, on all the dead leaves, everything. Sneaking around the base, trying to get away from what I'm doing. And no matter how hard you try, you're probably going to get this messy ick all over you too, so try not to be too freaked out. Okay, and then, as I said, go in and clean up your plant as much as possible. Cut as much of that eaten material away as you possibly can, even if you're cutting back some of those canes or pseudobulbs a little bit deeper than you would like to, because these guys not only eat the leaves, they'll also bore into the pseudobulbs themselves, and that you may not see. So just do a really good job at cleaning up your plant. There we go. So you can see they've borne in through the center of this cane, and lucky I started cutting it back, and we'll have to cut it all the way out to possibly the pseudobulb. Okay, you can see I've really done a good job of cleaning back all the dead dying material. Anything that's been eaten or partially eaten, I've cut it all back. And now this, don't just go put it in the compost heap or in the rubbish bin, because there probably are quite a few little grubs or adults or larvae, eggs in and amongst this mess. So the best is going to be, if you can, incinerate it. Try and make sure it's destroyed. And with our daily catch, what we're going to do is just put the lid on and make sure none of them can escape, and they're all going to die. Now that this guy's looking less than half the orchid he used to be, let's see what we can do to treat him to make sure we don't get these guys returning. And Dendrobium beetle is a bit of a misnomer really, because as I said, this is a blatilla, and they also really like to go for our epidendrums too. So Dendrobium beetles don't only eat dendrobiums. So what's the next step in treatment? There's going to be several different treatments that we do to this plant over the 14 days. the first one we're going to do is a neem oil. We'll take, first of all, about 5 milliliters of that neem oil. Often if it's a cold press, you may just need to filter it out in case there's any residue that might not go through your spray bottle and clog it up. So we just want to put that through there. So that's 5 mils of the neem oil. And we'll take only 2 or 3 drops of this dishwashing soap now. That's just to help stick the oils to the plant. And we'll take 1 liter of water. And then give that a good stir up. And then we can just put that into our spray bottle. And then we're going to give this a really good spray. But this we're only going to be doing in the evening. So in the evening of the first day, we're going to spray with our neem oil. We don't want to spray during the heat of the day, because if you're getting sunshine on your plant with neem oil, you can land up with bad burn marks and other damage to your plant, which you really want to avoid, especially at this point. So by spraying it on the evening, you're going to avoid any of that. And what you want to do is just move those leaves out the way, pull the leaves slightly away from the stems, just so that we can get that neem oil to go in between those leaves and in between that leaf sheath. And we want to make sure we get the entire plant covered. And also doing that, we want to spray around our pot as well, especially those points where we found those nests for the pupa. We want to spray in and around that, and on the media itself. We want to give the top of the media a good spray to ensure that any of those slimy buggers that have slid in down there or fallen off while we were cleaning them out also get a good dose of this neem oil. Then after that, we can place our orchid back to where it was, and on day 3. So we've done this on day 1. On day 3, 2 days away, we're going to go through and check for any further insects that are crawling around the plant that may have missed out of that spray that we had given it and crawled back up, or if the neem oil hadn't gone down in that leaf sheath enough and one had come out, or if a new one hatched. Maybe there's something that caused another one to, or an adult to fly on. And now we need to get rid of that. So what we do on the evening of day 4 is we get a pyrethrin, one of those organic pesticides. You can either make them yourselves using chrysanthemums or something, but you are able to buy them, these organic pesticides. And you're going to mix up a dose of that, and again in the evening of the 4th day is when we'll spray it with our pyrethrin. This way you're not going to damage any of the beneficial insects that you have. It's not going to be damaging to bees or anything, and it will just act as a stomach or a contact insecticide for those bugs eating your plant now. And then on day 6, what we're going to go do is go back and make another potion of our neem oil and spray the entire plant again around your pot and into the media. We want to make sure everything gets a good dose of that neem oil again. And remember, in the evening. So that's day 6 in the evening is your second treatment of neem oil. And then we can leave our plant for another 2 days, and on day 8, in the evening again, we'll go back in with the pyrethrin. That organic pesticide, we'll make sure that we spray our plant again with it to ensure that any more adults or larvae are killed on contact. And we're almost done. Day 12, go again with our neem oil and give it a complete spray through. This will then allow you on day 14 to go through for your final check to check that it is completely clear and that there's nothing roaming around, and you can do a final cleanup of your plant, cutting back anything further or just checking that everything's okay. So although it sounds like a long process, giving it a spray with these really doesn't take much time at all. So it's going to be completely harmless to any beneficial insects in and around your plants. Also, it's going to be completely non-toxic to your children and your pets. So if Kitty comes wandering through, don't worry, it's going to be fine. And now that we've done our curative treatment the organic way, remember, you're still going to have to keep checking, do follow-up checks throughout the warm period to check that there are any more bugs that have arrived onto your plant. Because if they were there in the first place, they're obviously in the environment around you and they're going to keep coming back. And what knockdown chemical solutions are there? Those ones that are going to completely nuke your plant and get rid of them. Things like imidacloprid are a systemic pesticide that when you give to your plant is going to protect your plant from the inside. So not only is it going to be a contact insecticide killing off those bugs that it contacts or that start eating your plant with a fine spray of it on it, it's going to be absorbed up into your plant itself and help protect the plant from any further attacks. It's going to last in your plant for a fair period of time, but always remember, try not to use it when your plant is in flower, because if your plant is in flower when using it, any bees that come to pollinate your plant will be killed. It is highly toxic to all insects, not just those ones that you're trying to get rid of. And with that extended period that it stays inside the cells of your plant means it's going to be toxic to them for a long time. Also, remember, it is a chemical poison, which means it's not good for you, it's not good for your children, and it's definitely not good for your pets. There's also cypermethrin. Cypermethrin is a contact and stomach insecticide. It's not systemic, so it will wash off your plant and it's going to just protect your plant while it's on it and kill any of those bugs that come into contact with it at that point. It's still a chemical, so also best remember to treat in the evenings to avoid it coming in contact with any of those other beneficial insects that we're trying to keep alive. And lucky I noticed that when I did, because here with this Dendrobium thriciflorum, I can see we're starting to get some of that lacing on the leaf already. And it was just in time because look what we have here. All of these flower buds coming. And the last thing we want to do is destroy this plant just as it's about to burst into flower. So this is going to get a good treatment of everything to ensure that there's no Dendrobium beetle left on here either. And if you need any further information on those chemical pesticides, remember to check that Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box down below. Ed has posted up a lot of content with regards to fertilizers and pesticides down there. Use it as your go-to resource for any of your orchid growing needs. And thank you for watching. If you found any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.